Okay, I just want to do this video because there's a few comments out of Intern Report 1 talking about struggles of understanding or adapting, I guess, maybe to the blurring of lines between courses, co-teaching, this type of approach to what we're doing, basically. So I just want to try and explain this a little bit better. And there's no time in class really to be doing this non-project based stuff. So I just want to do this video and maybe it'll help explain where we're coming from. And quite frankly, on that note, like I don't even care what the educational experts say or anything. I can only give you my opinion to this from a person that did projects for 20 years. That's all I did. I worked on projects, okay? And I see the importance of the way this is being approached now, not the way it may have been in past educational formats that you might have experienced in high school or whatnot. So let's look at a scenario of instructor 1 is teaching R&D, research and design. And maybe that class is on Monday, if you're lucky. Actually, you know what? That's too perfect. It wouldn't be. That class is Wednesday. Then we have instructor 2 teaching docs and regs, let's say. And that instructor is on Tuesday, let's say. That class is on Tuesday. Then we have instructor 3 who is teaching science and systems. And let's just say that's on Monday. And then let's have instructor 4 teaching, what are we missing here? Tech. And that's maybe on Friday, let's just say. So now imagine that you have an assigned instructor for each one of these courses, and they're on a certain day at a certain time. Okay, and maybe at the point in a project you're working on stairs, let's say as an example, but this could apply to any aspect of the project, in my opinion. So we have a stair. So in R&D class, let's look at a stair. Oh, but wait, R&D class is Wednesday. So we're actually going to start with science and systems when maybe we should be starting with R&D, but nonetheless, we'll start with science and systems. So what applies to stairs in science and systems? Well, are we talking about concrete stairs? Are we talking about steel stairs and the different types of steel stairs and the components involved in those steel stairs? Maybe it's a wood stair. What size of stringer do you need? This type of stuff would be a science and systems perspective. So maybe that ends up being talked about on Monday. How does that science and systems instructor talk about that without talking about the types of stairs that you can actually build? So maybe it's a U stair, maybe it's an L stair, maybe it's a straight run stair. That's actually a research and design topic, which should come first. Then you can maybe talk about the science and systems perspectives that I just mentioned. Okay, so that should have been 1. Research and design should have been the allowable shapes of stairs. Science and systems would be how they're constructed, the different types of materials, what's available out there, basically. But there's more to that, right? We also have to figure out what is an allowable width for a stair. How do we calculate that? What about the rise and run of that stair? What are the dimensions? All that kind of stuff needs to be figured out. Well, that happens to be a docs and regs thing. Okay, and again, that's on Tuesday, science and systems on Monday, and research and design is on Wednesday. And that's assuming that every instructor is talking about the same topic in a row, which is kind of highly unlikely too. Instructor 1 might say, we're going to talk about a research and design perspective of stairs in week 3. And instructor 2 might say, we're going to talk about stairs from a docs and regs perspective in week 4, and so on and so forth. So you start to see that it can start to get really complicated in this situation. And not to leave tech out, the final, obviously, component of the stair is drawing it. How do we draw a stair in, say, Revit? So that's going to be your tech thing, which ideally would follow that one, and that one, right? Okay, so there's a sequence of order to resolving something basically and learning about something. And I would say that traditional scheduling within um, schooling doesn't necessarily adapt to the reality of that. So when we get into this semester, we're really saying, and quite frankly, I think it should apply every semester. I think any project you're working on should be this approach personally. But this is why we're saying try and blur the lines of these classes because it's not going to work out that perfect. Reality is that a project doesn't have courses. A project has a problem, a stair that needs to be solved, plain and simple. So let's just clean this up a bit though and say, okay, well, that's a pretty complex situation. You got 4 instructors. What if we just have 2 instructors? Okay, so maybe instructor 1 is also teaching, um, what is that, science and systems, and maybe instructor 2, which I think should be familiar to people, is teaching tech. So now all of a sudden, things get a little bit better because there's only 2 instructors, right? And we're talking about this stair. So instructor 1 has research and design and science and systems. Oh, that's perfect. So the instructor 1 could say, okay, well, let's talk about the different shapes of stairs. Okay, we got U-shaped stairs, we got L-shaped stairs, we got straight run stairs. And then that instructor can be, well, I have you guys for science and systems too. So it makes sense now that we've identified the different styles of stairs. And don't get me wrong, there's other things, research and design. I'm just kind of giving one example here, but there's also like, what are the finishes? What's the railing type going to be? What's the guardrail going to be? It's going to be glass. It's going to be a picket, all this kind of stuff. Are we doing stainless steel? Are we doing painted steel? On and on. But anyways, but now it gets simpler because this instructor controls those 2 classes. And they realize that science and systems class is Monday and research and design is Wednesday, and they can just say, well, I'm in control of this, so why don't I make science and systems class on Monday and research and design on Wednesday? Or sorry, the other way around. Sorry, why don't I make research and design on Monday? Because that should come first, and then we can talk about the systems on Wednesday's class. Okay, but they're still left with a problem here and here. Okay, so the docs and regs and the tech. And again, is that instructor even talking about that week? It's nice to think that the instructors are in the background discussing that, and I think that that is something that obviously would be we'd strive to achieve that, but not always the case. It's not always that simple. And so just in the other side of this, so now we have instructor 2 teaching docs and regs and text. So instructor 2 can walk in a room and say, okay, well, I'm going to teach you how to calculate the width of a stair and the rise and run. And then I'm going to show you how to draw it in tech, right? I'm going to show you how to draw that in Revit or whatever the program happens to be at hand. But then the student might be saying, wait a minute. Actually, I should put a frown on there. You're telling us how to calculate a stair width, and you're gonna tell us to draw a stair, but instructor number 1 hasn't actually told us or shown us where to go for information on the types of stairs we can do. And if I'm going to draw a stair in Revit, it might have components to it like a stringer, and our science and systems instructor didn't tell us or didn't talk about what it could even be made of at this point. So could you slow down? And I would say that this is the problem that has happened in the past, is that this is exactly the case where the students would be like, well, so-and-so's doing this and this day and doing this, and we're not even doing that in the other class, and this instructor's not talking about that, and it becomes a problem. It's an organizational problem. So if you're struggling with an organizational problem right now in 3rd semester, it's no different. But what we're trying to do is, I guess I shouldn't say it's no different. You're struggling with an organizational challenge because you're focused on this. If you just stop focusing on each one of these courses and trying to organize your stuff into courses per se, you can, but you gotta let go of when they happen in relation to each other. So if we come into class and we say we're going to talk about stairs, then we might as well talk about research and design, docs and regs, science and systems, and then follow that up with a demo of how to draw a stair in Revit. That makes sense. The only way we can do that is to bring instructor 1 and instructor 2 together in the same class. So once instructor 1 and 2 are in the same class together, they can say, let's talk about stairs today and cover all relevant information on those stairs. And then the student is left with their frown saying, but I don't, I don't know how to organize this. I'm trying to take notes for each course. That's the problem. Don't. It's a topic, it's a piece of the project that needs to be solved. Who cares what the course is, right? So, I think it's just a restructuring of how to maybe take your notes, or how to look at how to approach the end result of a project. Okay, so this isn't a I guess the best way to put this is that if you're approaching stuff through subject and writing, say, an exam, okay, so you learn about stairs and docs and regs, and you learn about how to calculate the stair width in docs and regs, and then you do an assignment on that maybe doesn't even apply to your project. Well, that's a waste of time. Why would I do an assignment for a stair in docs and regs that isn't even applicable to my project? So all we're saying is, okay, let's look at that stair. Let's calculate how wide that stair has to be, but just do it in your project so that you're not doing it twice. You're not going to do it in the docs and regs class with some mythical situation. Like let's just do it on your project, and that should save you more work. But it does certainly create a situation where you need to break down the old habits of how maybe you're learning something and organizing something. And I guess that in essence, that's kind of what project-based learning is we're just dealing with issues on a project, and it does not matter what category the solution falls into. It's just the solution. And I'll just finish this off by just saying, like, when I first came, so again, like nearly 20 years of only project work when I came to SAIT, okay? And when I first started teaching, we were in that old model where, yeah, I was assigned science and systems, and there was certain content topics to teach, and I would just go in and we'd teach that topic, and I would leave, and the students were still producing a project, I suppose, in the background in one class. They'd be doing a house or whatever, and so on and so forth. And I knew immediately, this is not right. This is a polytechnic school that is supposed to be preparing people for for a career in what I did essentially. And I was super uncomfortable, and I knew it was wrong. What I can tell you right now, the approach we have right now with that co-teaching and blurring the lines between subjects is bang on. It is exactly how a project rolls. So the more you can get comfortable with that idea, the more the better it's gonna serve you. I'm gonna say for the remainder of this program and in your career. And I would just finish off by saying that, so if you were in first semester and it was like, well, no, we had two instructors and they each did their own class and their own topic, and we got through it. It's like, that's a house. Maybe that works with a house, but we got a lot of information flying around in a commercial building, and that approach doesn't work. We would need 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, um, with 2 hours per topic on things, and we still wouldn't have enough time. It's just not the way it rolls. So maybe it worked in semester one, semester two, I don't know. Maybe it worked. Personally, I would say that if that's the way it was worked on, fine. You should be familiar with that maybe through your previous education experiences. But what I will tell you again, with 20 years of doing projects, what's going to serve you better now, I don't care what happened in the past, what's going to serve you better now is learning how to get yourself through a project. Okay, so hopefully that helps explain where we're coming from. If there's any anxiety to the arrangement we're facing, there is a good reason for it. And there's other benefits too. I mean, the fact that we're online, it helps to have two instructors in the class and this kind of stuff. But that's besides the point. I don't even care about that stuff. I don't even care about the pedagogy from educational experts. It doesn't matter. This is the right way to approach a project. So I think we're fortunate there's a big movement to go to project-based learning, I guess, in the educational world. But it's like we didn't even need to be out of that concept. Like it should have been project-based learning from day one, going back whatever 80 years, because that's what we do. That's what we do. And this is a school that is supposed to be kind of training you to sit in a seat on day one and be comfortable with the process. So that, if it's challenging, that's okay. We get it. But I hope that helps clear up why, and I hope you can see the benefits of trying to weed your way through this situation if it's not comfortable. And just one more thing in this complex web of stuff, let's not also forget that we haven't even talked about what the wall should be. Should the wall have some glass because you want some natural light in the stair or need some safety? Should the wall be concrete? Should it be concrete block? Should it be um, gypsum board finish with steel stud? And again, and so obviously deciding what the wall might, whether it's going to have glass, let's say, for example, or be solid, would be R&D. Then deciding, well, and then docs and regs is going to influence that because, well, what if that wall has to be fire rated? Can you even do glass, for example? Maybe it has to be solid. Maybe it needs a 2-hour fire rating, and the best way to get that is through a concrete wall or a concrete block wall. But anyway, so there's a docs and regs component to that. There's a science and systems component to that, obviously. The systems you're going to use to build that wall. What is it? Concrete? Is it steel stud? Is it concrete block? And then, of course, you have to build that wall in Revit, for example. You have to draw that wall. So, there's the second layer of the stair that just gets tangled into that web of courses.